Hey everyone, how's it going on? In today's session, we will discuss about how to combine SAS datasets. I'm pretty sure you guys must have worked on various projects or applications where there must be a requirement of to combine multiple datasets. And to do that, the data should be in a specific format before the data can be processed. Apart from that, relationship among multiple sources of input data exists when each of the data sources or datasets contain common data. For example, employee data and department data could be related through an employee ID variable that shares common value. And one must be able to identify the existing relationship in the data. And this knowledge is crucial for understanding how to process the input data to produce desired results. Now let's go ahead and do some examples and see how we can combine datasets in SAS. The first method which we are going to see right now is called as one-to-one reading in SAS. One-to-one reading combines rows from two or more datasets by creating rows that contains all of the columns from each contributing datasets. Moreover, rows are combined based on their relative positions in each dataset. That is, the first row in one dataset is combined with the first in the other and so on. The data program stops after it has read the last row from the smallest dataset. Guys, I would like to let you know that I have never used one-to-one reading because I think it is a very specific case, or when there is a very peculiar case, only then it should be used. I'm telling you about this particular methodology because it is one of the most asked question in SAS when it has been asked in the Base SAS certification exam, and that is why I'm taking you through one-to-one reading. And let me take you through the example that how we can use one-to-one reading to combine the two data sets together. So I have already created some sample data set for one-to-one reading, and now we are going to combine them together. Let us see the output results. So you can see here, um, 1 underscore a has ID and a variable a1, a2, a3, and 1 underscore b has ID 1, 2, and variable b as b1, b2. Okay, now I'll try to join these two data set together using one-to-one reading. So what we are going to do is one-to-one. This is how the syntax looks like. Set 1 underscore a, and then another syntax 1 underscore b. This is how one-to-one reading is done. Now let's run this code. Now you can see here, let me run this output again. Just a second. Proc print data equal to 1 to 1. Okay, now you can see here ID is 1, 2, 3, variable a is a1, a2, a3, and ID is 1, 2, b1 and b2. We have concatenate both these two data set together, and this is an output. You can say it is pretty confusing, that you are doing a union or what you are doing, right? And what could be the use case for it? What I believe one of the use case could be is the census data for all the you can say um, citizens who let's say in the year 2010 you have, let's say, taken a census of 100 citizens, and for those 100 citizens you took the census again, and then you are trying to update that table. That is when it can be used, because you can see here 1 and 2 has been taken, the third has not, mean the result is not there. Then a1 and a2 is there as variable a and variable b. This seems pretty straightforward. I'll show you more confusing example when you are trying to uh, you know use this particular one-to-one methodology to concatenate the two tables together or do the union of the two tables together. This is neither an union nor intersect, or you can say minus, or you know, those sort of clauses which you have might have used in SQL. So how one-to-one reading selects data? The new datasets contains all variables from the input datasets. If the datasets contain variables that have the same names, the values that are read from the last dataset override the values that were read from the earlier dataset. And we will see an example for that also. Apart from that, the number of observations in the new dataset is the number of the observation in the smallest original dataset. Observations are combined based on their relative position in each dataset. That is, the first observation in one dataset is joined with the first observation in the other, and so on. The dataset stops after it has read the last observation from the smaller dataset, and that is why you are seeing, right, that in the final dataset we do not have observation number 3. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, that if the datasets contain variables that have the same names, the values that are read from the last dataset override the values that were read from the earlier dataset. And that is why I was giving an example of this sunset dataset. So you can see here 1 underscore a has values that for variable a has values like a1, a2, and a3, and 1 underscore a1 has variable a as the value of b1 and b2. Okay, now I'm replacing my dataset 1 underscore b2 1 underscore a1. Now let me run this, and let me run the whole code. Now you see here all these values which were there in variable a for 1 underscore a has been replaced by b1 and b2. So that is one of the thing, and that is why I'm again repeating it, that this particular methodology to combine the data sets in SAS, until unless you're not 100% sure, you should not use it. However, there will be a certain means, if there are 10 questions are going to be asked on, let's say, in Base SAS certification, there will be like 100% there will be one question from this particular topic. Now, let's say if we have a data set 1 underscore c with the same variable name a but a different data type, it will give an error to us. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace a1 with c. Okay. And if I'm going to run this code, you can see variable a var a has defined as both character and numeric, and that is why you have got an error. Okay, that is another thing which you have to take care of. When you have the same variable name, it should be have the same data type. Another example which I am giving you here is of variable a and variable b, which are different data type. Sorry, variable b is of numeric, variable a is categorical, and you will see uh, uh, that this particular example um, will show you everything, like what are the precautions you have to take when you have to read such data set, when you are using this one-to-one reading methodology. So I have run 1 underscore d, and I'm going to replace c by d. Now let me run this code, and now let us run this proc printf statement, and you can see here variable a which was there in 1 underscore a, it has been replaced. It has added a new column 10 and 20, and in variable in 1 underscore a we have 3 rows, 3 observations. However, in 1 underscore d we have only 2 observations. That is why in the new dataset which has been which is combined from both 1 underscore a and 1 underscore d, it has read only those many observations which are into the smallest data set. Okay, so that is why you are seeing here two observations. So this is one-to-one reading methodology in SAS to combine two data sets together. Another way to combine SAS dataset with set statement is concatenating, which appends the observation from one dataset to another dataset. To concatenate SAS dataset, one must specify a list of the dataset names in the set statement. And one should remember, when a program concatenates dataset, all of the observations are read from the first dataset listed in the set statement, then all the observations are read from the second dataset listed, and so on, until all of the listed datasets have been read. Now, the new dataset contains all of the variables and observations from all of the input datasets. So let's do an example and see how we can concatenate multiple datasets using SAS. So as you can see here, I have created two new datasets here, con underscore A and con underscore B. It has input ID, input as ID and gender. These are the two variables. And purposely I have put up here the gender with length of $1 dot, and this one is by default 8 for gender, and I'll let you know why I have done that. So let's run the print statement and see how the data looks like. So you can see here ID, gender, and this is the second one, con underscore B with ID 1 female, 1 male, 2 F, and 4 female. Okay, now to concatenate two datasets or append two datasets, in spite of writing means this is one-to-one reading code. So we have written multiple set statement. In this particular case, we have to just mention one set statement and we can write any number of the datasets here. Con underscore A and con underscore B, which are the two data set here. Let us run our code and see how the output looks like. And this is our proc print statement. So it has, combined both the data sets. As I said earlier, I have purposely put up the length of gender variable as 1. Okay, so you can see here that both instances of ID variables or the gender must have the same type attribute, or the SAS will stop processing the data step and issue an error message stating that the variables are incompatible. If we have different data types, for example, let's say for gender we have one like 1 and 0 in the Boolean format and the other one is in the format of MFF, M and F, then this would have given us an error. If the length of the attribute is different, which is in our case, as you can see here, in this particular case, the length of the gender variable is 1, whereas in this particular case, which is default 8, SAS will take the length from the first data set that contains the variable. In this case, the length is of gender variable is 1. Determines the length of gender from the second data set, where we have the length of gender variable as 8. The same is true for the labels, format, and in format attributes. If any of these attributes are different, SAS takes the attribute from the first data set and that contains the variable with that attribute. Okay, so this is one way you can concatenate or append the data set together. Now another thing which I wanted to show you here, let's say we have another variable, let's say salary. Okay, let me add some data here. And let's say this is 15,000. Let me run this code. And let me run, and this is proc print. You can see here it has added a new column called salary, and it looks perfectly fine. Now you can see here it has kept the attribute of the second data set because salary is not there in the first data set. So it has kept the attributes of the second data set for salary column. However, for gender it is different because it has gender in both the columns. So this is how you can append or concatenate two datasets in SAS. Another way to combine SAS dataset is to append one dataset to another using the append procedure. Although appending and concatenating are similar, there are some important differences between the two methods. In data steps, which you can see here, this is the methodology we have used to append the two datasets together. So in the data steps, create an entirely new datasets when concatenating, whereas when we use proc append procedure, it will simply add the observation of one dataset to the end of the base dataset. SAS does not create a new dataset, nor does it read the base dataset when executing the append procedure. Let's do an example and try to see how we can use proc append procedure to concatenate two datasets together. For that, I have created another dataset called con underscore c, and these are the same variables as you can see here, which are in con underscore a. And let me run the code here. Now we are going to use a proc append procedure to see how we can uh, uh, append the two datasets together. So it is very simple. Proc append procedure base equal to con underscore c, the new dataset we have created, and data equal to con underscore a. So what it is going to do, it will just append the data of con underscore a in con underscore c. Let's see that. Let me write proc append procedure also. So you can see there is no output dataset. It just append the con A dataset into the base dataset, which is con underscore C. Let us write con underscore C here. So you can see both the datasets have been appended together. There are certain requirements for using proc append procedure. One is only two datasets can be used at a time in one step. The second one is the observation in base datasets are not read. And the third one is the variable information in the description portion of the base dataset cannot change. Now, let's do another example. You can see here in con underscore a dataset, I have added a new variable called salary and inserted some numbers here. And let's rerun this code. Now we will use proc append procedure to see can we add the new variable or not. You can see here no appending. It is giving us an error as well as a warning. Warning is variable salary was not found on base file. The variable will not be added to the base file. The error is no appending done because of anomalies listed above. Use force option to append this file. So the errors are already provided as a solution. What we need to do, we have to use the force option. Now let's run this code and let's run the printf statement. So you can see here, since salary column was not there, in the base file, we were not able to add that new column into the base dataset, and it has discarded the salary column when we are using the proc append procedure. Now we are going to discuss about interleaving methodology to concatenate two datasets. If you use a by statement when you try to concatenate multiple datasets, the result is interleaving. Interleaving basically intersperses observation from two or more datasets based on one or more common variable. Now let's do some example and see how does it work. So one underscore A and one underscore B are the two datasets which we are trying to append them together or concatenate them together. Let us see how the data looks like. So you can see here ID is 1, 2, 3 and variable A, A1, A2, A3 and ID is 4 and 5, B1 and B2. The only difference between generic concatenation when we put up like set a statement and multiple data sets, here we are also using the by statement. Okay, let's try to run this. Let's see the output by proc print. there is no problem. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A1, A2, A3, B1, and B2. Now here there is one catch, and this particular example is used in Base SAS certification lot many times. So means they will put up a question in such a manner that a person get confused, and that is what I'm going to show you now. So here you can see ID variable has already been sorted 1, 2, 3 ascending order, 4 and 5 ascending order. Let's say if I change this order to 1, 3, 2, okay, or let's say change it to 3, 1, 2, okay, and I'm rerunning this code, okay, and this is how it looks like. 4 and 5 still remain the same. The ID 1 underscore a ID has changed. Now if I'll try to run this code, it will give me an error. It says that error by variable are not properly sorted on dataset work.1 underscore a. It has already told us the problem, and it has also given us the solution like what we need to do. We basically need to mean this is if you are using interleaving, and I'll tell you what is the benefit of using interleaving in this way. Basically, if you are using interleaving, you have to sort your dataset before you should use it, right? Generally, otherwise you might get a problem if your data set has the variable which you are going to use into the by variable. If it has not been sorted, generally you are going to get an error. So it is always best to sort them. Data equal to 1 underscore a, proc sort by id. Data equal to 1 underscore b by id run. Okay. Now I'm running this. So no error. Let us see how the output looks like. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has been in a ascending order. Another example which might be asked in a Base SAS certification as well as in some of the interview questions also I had seen that they might give you data set like this, and they will ask you how whether it will give you an error or not. Okay, and this is how it looks like. And let me rerun the code. And if I'm going to use it, because here it has already been sorted, so it is not a problem. Let me put up here 3, 1, 2. Okay. So what you need to do, you have to sort these data sets, and when you will run this code, you can see here it has been sorted out 1A, 1A2, 1B1, 2A3, 2B2, and 3A1. So that is the benefit of using interleaving procedure, that all the IDs are in the same order. Like, it has been sorted by IDs, and you are seeing uh, the the union or concatenation of the two data sets in a proper manner, sorted by ID column. Now, there is one more thing I would like to show you. Means generally, if you'll ask me that whether I use this procedure, until this, if I want to use it, only then I use it if I'm working on SAS. Otherwise, I generally use Proc SQL. Why? Let me show you. Proc SQL. Select star from 1 underscore a union all, select star from 1 underscore b, order by id, quit. And you see, I got the same output as I was getting earlier, right? And I do not have any problem in, finding it out like what methodology is better or what should we do, because when you're using data steps, then you have to understand that this is SAS own programming language, and it works on the basis of the programming data vector. And one has to understand that how the data is going to be inserted after for each record, for each observation, for each row, how the data is going to be inserted, and what is going to happen. So sometimes it gets a bit complicated, uh, especially for the new users, new SAS programmers, uh, and um, uh, and that is why I prefer to use Proc SQL or SQL, because most of the people are aware of the SQL queries. So it is pretty straightforward for that what type of the data, what type of the results you are expecting. Another thing, let's say what I would like to show you here. Let's say I change this B1 to A2, right, and this B2 to A3. So you see here, these are the duplicate record, right? If I'll use data, let's say any of this data processor, right? Let's say if I'm using um, uh, interleaving methodology. Okay, if I run this, you see you have the duplicate records. It is a union all processor. If I'll run this proc SQL statement, this is a union all methodology in SQL, right? If I have to get only unique records, what I need to do in proc SQL, I just need to remove this. If I'll run this code, you see, I got unique records. But if I have to use an interleaving processor, what I have to do, I have done a very detailed video on proc sort processor. So you can see like what I'm doing here, and I've explained there that how PDV works and all those stuff. But if I have to remove um, the duplicate records, I have to use this thing, for if first.id. So basically, when you are using proc sort processor by any ID variable, then it automatically creates a variable, you can say first dot, on the basis of which you have sorted that particular data set. In this case, it is ID. Now, if I'll run this code, you can see here you are not seeing any duplicate records. So, because of the simplicity of proc SQL or SQL, it is sometimes it is very intuitive to use proc SQL in place of using data steps. However, if you are giving an interview or base set certification, then I'm pretty sure you are going to get few questions on interleaving, difference between interleaving procedure and the generic concatenation procedure, and the differences which I have talked about, that if you have duplicate values, and how you can remove those duplicate values by using the data step procedure which we have used here, then this is how you do it. And this is a very pretty common question in SAS interview question, and even in the base SAS certification question. So we are ending this session here. Today we discuss about how to concatenate or append two or more data sets in SAS. In the next session, we are going to discuss about left join, right joins, and inner joins, and that is when that will complete the whole combining SAS dataset session. So it has been divided into two parts. One is union, and the second one is, as I said, inner join, outer joins, and left outer join and right outer joins. So I hope you guys have learned something new today, and hope it is useful for you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.